Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Meetinghouse of Provincetown, where we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person and where we support each other on our spiritual search for truth and meaning. My name is Reverend Kate Wilkinson, and I am so glad that you have joined us this morning through our live stream. I also thank our small worship and tech crew here in the sanctuary. Since Valentine's Day is tomorrow, today is our Celebration of Love Sunday here at the Meetinghouse. But before we begin our service, I have a few announcements to share with you. Our new office administrator, Kenneth, has started with us. Please be sure to introduce yourself and to offer him a warm welcome. Our board of directors meets this afternoon on Zoom. And among the many other things on the agenda is a discussion about a timeline for reopening the Meetinghouse to in-person attendance. We will keep you informed in the coming week, and please hold these leadership folk in love and gratitude as they weigh so many factors and make these important and thoughtful decisions for our community. Our Little Free Pantry continues to be an important resource for our larger community. Thank you so much to the volunteers that restock 3 times a week and all of you who have been donating non-perishable food items and warm socks. Please keep those donations coming. We are so grateful. And this is such an important ministry, especially during the winter, which is a really challenging time for many people on the Outer Cape. Let's join now in affirming our community's covenant. You can repeat each line after me. Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
This is our great covenant.
This is our great covenant.
To dwell together in peace.
To dwell together in peace.
To seek the truth in love.
To seek the truth in love.
And to help one another.
And to help one another.
At this time, I invite Bruce to light our chalice. As we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, we invite you to light a candle wherever you are. In this way, we can feel connected, even while we are apart.
A Chalice Lighting for When Things Aren't Okay by Molly Brewer. My beloved people, I cannot pretend, and so I will not tell you that everything is okay right now, that there is no reason to be angry, that you must be optimistic or at peace. I cannot pretend these things, and so I will not tell them to you. But now our chalice is lit, and so all I can ask in this moment is that we remember the words of Rebecca Parker. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all. By the light of our chalice, let us rest in this love.
Please join me now in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Our meditation this morning is by Rebecca Parker. In the midst of a world marked by tragedy and beauty, there must be those who bear witness against unnecessary destruction, and who with faith rise and lead in freedom, with grace and power. There must be those who speak honestly and do not avoid seeing what must be seen of sorrow and outrage, or tenderness and wonder. There must be those whose grief troubles the water, while their voices sing and speak refreshed worlds. There must be those whose exuberance rises with lovely energy that articulates earth's joys. There must be those who are restless for respectful and loving companionship among human beings, whose presence invites people to be themselves without fear. There must be those who gather with the congregation of remembrance and compassion, draw water from old wells, and walk the simple path of love for neighbor. And there must be communities of people who seek to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God, who call on the strength of soul force to heal, transform, and bless life. There must be religious witness. Amen.
Small Kindnesses by Danusha Lamarus. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by, or how strangers still say, "Bless you," when someone sneezes. A leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we're saying. And sometimes, when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them, and for them to smile back. For the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder. And for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire. Only these brief moments of exchange, what if they are the true dwelling of the holy? These fleeting temples we make together when we say, "Here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat."
Now is the time in our service where we take a collection for the ongoing support of this meeting house and our shared ministry. As we enjoy a musical reflection, we welcome your donations through PayPal or Venmo. You can find that information on our website, uumh.org. Whether you give online or through other ways, we are grateful for your support.
Good friends together gathered here, where are we bound? Your hands and voices fill my heart. Here is my home. Come morning, come light. Where are we bound? Come daylight, come night. Here is my home. If we can join ourselves in song, where are we bound? Our hearts will live, but we are gone. Here is my home. Come morning, come light. Where are we bound? Come daylight, come night. Here is my home. The spirit which finds music here. Where are we bound? Will live forever in the air. Here is my home. Come morning, come light. Where are we bound? Come daylight, come night. Here is my home. Here is my home.
Thank you. The Greeks had many different words for the many kinds of love there are in the world. Eros for lovers, philia for friendship, agape for charity, a self-sacrificing kind of love. Presbyterian minister and writer Frederick Buechner once wrote that in the Christian sense, love is not primarily an emotion, but an act of the will. When Jesus tells us to love our neighbors, Fred says, he's not telling us to love them in the sense of responding to them with a cozy emotional feeling. On the contrary, he is telling us to love our neighbors in the sense of being willing to work for their well-being, even if it means sacrificing our own well-being to that end. Even if it means sometimes just leaving them alone. In Jesus' terms, Fred says, we can love our neighbors without necessarily liking them. This is such good news, isn't it? It makes loving our neighbors so much easier. also have to like them. And also, loving people doesn't mean we have to be nice to them all the time either, especially when they are being jerks. When Jesus talked to the Pharisees, Fred reminds us, he didn't say, there, everything's going to be all right. He said, you brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? And he said that to them because he loved them. This does not mean that liking may not be a part of loving, Fred reassures us, only that it doesn't have to be. Sometimes liking follows on the heels of loving. It's hard to work for people's well-being for very long without coming in the end to rather like them too. Some of my favorite teaching stories are told by Reverend Frederick Buechner. He was actually the neighbor of a friend of mine's family up in Vermont. When my friend's parents finally started attending church, they were excited to tell him. Wonderful, he said. Which one? The Unitarian church, they said excitedly. Oh, he said, that's my least favorite one. But still, maybe he loves us a little, even if he doesn't especially like us. How do we love each other well? I've been thinking about this question a lot lately, as divides deepen in our country and in our families, as our fuses grow shorter and shorter as individuals and as a society, as our collective behavior gets worse and worse. I mean, look at those videos of how people act on airplanes these days. It is unimaginable. Let's be honest, with this as our societal backdrop, we can't really claim to always like our fellow human beings, or even all of our family members, can we? So, how do we still love each other well? I'm not sure. But a few things make sense to me. So I'm going to start there. The first thing is, if we are ever going to be able to love others well, I think we have to figure out how to love ourselves better. I mean, it's not even really that selfish a thing to start there, is it? Because if we can't even figure out how to love ourselves, how are we ever going to be any good at it with anybody else? And if we don't have the self-love required to know what is important to us and what our most deeply held values are, and to know that they are important, then how are we ever going to have the guts to stick up for them, work for them, sacrifice for them, or the courage to stick up for the people we love who we are trying to advocate for? Bell Hooks died in December, just before Christmas. Do you all know her and her work? She was an author, a professor, a feminist and social activist. She explored the intersectionality of race, capitalism, gender, sexuality, and class. She wrote a book on love that I read in my 20s that I've been revisiting after her death. She talks about loving ourselves. One of the best guides to how to be self-loving, Bell says, is to give ourselves the love we are often dreaming about receiving from others. There was a time, she admits, when I felt lousy about my over 40 body, saw myself as too fat, too this or too that. Yet I fantasized about finding a lover who would give me the gift of being loved as I am. It is silly, isn't it, she asks, that I would dream of someone else offering to me the acceptance and affirmation I was withholding from myself. She says, do not expect to receive the love from someone else you do not give yourself. So tomorrow, on Valentine's Day, try being your own Valentine. Try looking in the mirror and saying, I love you just the way you are. Try to mean it. This week, as you go throughout your week, try to fill it with things that you love, that are important to you. If you love the outdoors, go there. If you love to read, get yourself a new book at the library. Drink a cup of your favorite tea every day. Wear your favorite sweatshirt twice. Paint a wall of your living room a color that you love, even if no one else likes it. The things that you like, that you love, are important. They make you you. The more you feel like you, the more you love you, the better you will be able to love the world. Loving yourself might mean putting some limits on others, on what they expect of you, on what they take from you, on what you put up with from them. I heard somewhere this wonderful phrase, boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. I looked it up and found that this wisdom is attributed to Prentice Hemphill, a somatics teacher and political organizer who served as the Healing Justice Director at Black Lives Matter Global Network. They are also a therapist working in low-cost mental health clinics, offering therapeutic services to marginalized people. Their popular podcast is called Finding Our Way. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. So number one, loving ourselves. Number two, trusting that there is enough love to go around, that we are held by love. We cannot love each other well if we think that love might run out, if we are coming from a scarcity mentality. We cannot love each other well if we think that love is a limited resource and that we have to save it for just our nearest and dearest, or that love is not strong enough to weather some difficult things. Don't let those Valentines fool you. Love is not like a doily or a piece of delicate lace. Love is like duct tape. It holds. And love is strong enough to hold people who disagree, who see things differently. Now, there might have to be some boundaries, some distance, but love's slinky arms can extend for those. Love is even strong enough to hold a society together, even when realities seem to be drifting apart. It's hard to remember right now, but this idea is at the very heart of our free religious tradition. that we needn't think alike to love alike. You can love and disagree at the same time. You can have completely different views and still want what's best for a person. You can witness pettiness and ugliness and selfishness and respond with something different. You can be angry and still work for the common good. You can dislike someone and still love them. You can love at the distance that allows you to love yourself too. That's how big the love is that's holding you. It will not run out. It is still available in this broken world. And remember, love is not like lightning that only strikes once. Love is like glitter from your kid's school project that you just can't not get rid of. There will always be more, even if you can't figure out where it is coming from. So number 1, loving ourselves. Number 2, trusting that there is enough and that it is strong enough. And number 3, recognizing what love is calling us to do. Remember how Reverend Buechner said, love isn't just a cozy emotional feeling? When we are called to love our neighbor, we aren't being called to like them, to agree with them, to have barbecues with them every Saturday. We are being called to work for their liberation and their chance at happiness. We are being called to make the world a safe and just place for them to live. So this challenge to love well isn't just emotional work, it's systemic work, it's institutional work, it's legislative work. It starts in here, but it doesn't end there. The kind of change we are after, Brenda says, is cellular as well as institutional, is personal and intimate, is collective as well as cultural. We are making love synonymous with justice. How do we love each other well? Maybe it looks like forgiving each other for our mistakes or bringing each other soup when we are sick. But maybe it also looks like going to a meeting addressing the housing crisis on the Cape, or voting for funding for childcare at town meeting, even though you don't have kids yourself, or not crossing a picket line at the grocery store. These are acts of love. And when we approach them as such, they become not a burden or an inconvenience, but a way of being more alive, more connected, more loving. Which leads me to the last thing that makes sense to me this morning about love. And that is number 4, don't be afraid to show love, even to strangers. Maybe a lot of the love work is behind the scenes, wrestling within our own hearts or doing activism that isn't always witnessed. But there is also an element of love that has to be visible, tangible, obvious. I've been paying attention this week to the debate about masking in schools. And it's clear that there are costs on both sides of the equation. Unmasking means risking another COVID spike or kids bringing sickness home to at-risk family members. But there are also problems with children wearing masks. Young children unable to see faces may not be developing emotional skills. And children of all ages are having a harder time making connections. Anya Kamenetz explained this on NPR the other day. They're not developing empathy, a Los Angeles mother told her. It's taken 6 months for my 5th grader to make friends because it's so hard to tell what people are doing and thinking. To me, this is not where masks come off. This is where love steps in. Visible, tangible, obvious love, which expresses itself as kindness. Perhaps at least part of the answer is to teach our children and ourselves the importance of extra kindness in this moment when it is so hard to interpret other people. We have so little of each other now, this morning's reading said. And now wearing masks, not always being able to gather in person, we have that much less. How do we make up for that? So that children, so that grown children still know that there is a love holding them. Audre Lorde said, we have to study how to be tender with each other until it becomes habit. We have to study how to be tender with each other until it becomes habit. In September 2019, the poet Naomi Shihab Nye was asked to choose a poem for the New York Times Magazine. She chose Small Kindnesses by Danusha Lamaris. She said that the poem felt utterly necessary for the time, a poem that acknowledges the modern plight of autonomy and so many separations, a poem celebrating minor, automatic graciousness within a community. In 2022, the poem feels even more necessary. We need that graciousness. We need that catalog of small encouragements so that we can study how to be tender with each other, so that we can relearn how to love each other well, or at least be kind to one another. Number 1, loving ourselves. Number 2, trusting love. Number 3, answering love's call. Number 4, making love visible. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire. Only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, "Here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat." Amen, and blessed be. It has become our practice to pose a question based on the theme of the service each week. It can be a topic of sharing at your dinner table tonight or with friends during the week. If you would like to delve deeper into this topic, please join us for our midweek coffee hour, Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Let us know if you need that link. Here is our question for this week. How are you going to love well this week? How are you going to love well this week? Thank you for joining us this morning. Happy Valentine's Day. Go in peace.